Hey Reddit, what was your thank God I looked at the contract moment? I impulsively signed up for a gym membership and immediately got sketched out when they charged me $250 instead of the $90 monthly fee. I went home so mad about it that I barely slept. The next day I called to cancel, and almost everyone I talked to tried telling me it was impossible unless I moved somewhere without one of their gyms. I finally checked the actual contract and saw you could cancel within the first 2 weeks, and I was only 3 days in. I canceled that membership real fast. Did you get your money back? Yup, full refund. My landlord agreed to let me move out a month early because he wanted to rent the place to someone else. We had to sign new paperwork to release me from the original lease and set an earlier move-out date. Since I knew he'd recently been convicted of forgery, I actually read everything before signing. Sure enough, he'd slipped in a clause saying that if the new tenant fell through, I'd still be responsible for rent even after moving out. I called him on it, and he casually said he added it to protect himself. After all that, he still stole my security deposit. I haven't taken him to court yet, but I probably should. Fuck you, Steve. Edit. Alright, you all convinced me. I've still got a few months before the statute of limitations runs out. I just left him one last voicemail, and if I don't have my check by the end of the week, I'm filing a civil case. Do it for all of us who have never gotten a deposit back. There is always some crap the landlord will make up to take your money. Get yours back for me, brah. My wife and I were at a car dealership buying our first car and using a special no-interest financing deal they advertised for recent college graduates. The finance guy sat us down and offered 2 options, a 3-year payment plan or a 5-year plan. The entire time he talked, he made it sound like the zero-interest offer applied to both, so we chose the 5-year option to keep the monthly payments lower. He then tried to get us to sign everything quickly without reading it, but we insisted on going through the paperwork. That's when we realized the longer plan didn't qualify for the deal at all and actually came with a 6.5% interest rate, which is obviously nowhere near zero. We got pissed, threatened to walk out, and suddenly they were willing to lower the price. I'm sure they've pulled the same trick on other recent grads who didn't read before signing. I briefly dated a car salesman who was shady in pretty much every way back when I had just graduated college. He told me that when they managed to trick someone into paying higher interest, they called it a head crack, and those deals were celebrated in the back rooms of the dealership. After hearing that, I made a rule for myself to always walk into a dealership with financing already lined up through my bank. I went to pick up my car from the dealership and noticed the paperwork said that by signing it, I was giving them permission to lend my personal information to third parties. Nope. What did you do? It was my first time having my car serviced there, but they refused to give it back unless I signed the paperwork. I stood there while they deleted my contact info from their system, then I took my keys and left. When I bought my car new about 3 years ago, the finance department processed everything and had me sign paperwork at an agreed price. 3 days later, they called and said the lender fell through and I'd actually need to pay an extra $100 a month. I went back with the signed paperwork and the keys and told them they could either honor the contract or take the car back with the added mileage on it. Turns out this is a pretty common dealership tactic. Be careful. They tried the same thing on me. Called a week later saying we had to redo the finance paperwork. They'd written it so the monthly payment looked lower, but the interest rate was higher and stretched over 5 years instead of 4. I'd never bought a car from a dealer before, but my parents had been there for the original signing and warned me this could happen. The finance guy looked completely baffled when I kept insisting I wanted the higher monthly payment I'd originally agreed to, or he could take back my old crappy Oldsmobile. They ended up putting my payments and interest back exactly how they were. Slimy fuckers. I had been taking helicopter flying lessons and was thinking about switching careers to become a pilot. I found a flight school and applied for a student loan, and Sallie Mae was the only lender willing to cover it. When I received the final paperwork, the interest rate was higher than what they had quoted over the phone, and the total repayment would have been over $200,000. I ended up canceling and never went to flight school. Reading that annoyed me. I hope you can one day go. At my high school, they set up Wi-Fi for students, but the terms of service said that by connecting, the school had permission to search your phone and look through its contents. I never signed in, and I still haven't. When buying my house, my husband signed the paperwork first, and I went in later that day to sign. I started reading through the loan application, and the mortgage lender said, "What are you doing? You don't have to read it. Your husband already signed." I told him no. I wanted to make sure it was what I agreed to. Turns out he was trying to push a $250,000 loan at 25% interest. Yeah, right. I didn't sign it and left. He threatened to take me to court, and I told him to go ahead. It would be cheaper than what he wanted me to sign. After that, I handled all the mortgage stuff myself. Edit. Just spoke with my husband. The guy who tried to sell us that loan ended up getting busted and arrested, lost everything, and needed his parents to bail him out. The lender we eventually went through for our FHA loan also got arrested for selling bad loans. Always do your research. I was ready to put down a deposit on a great flat when I decided to actually read the rules they'd sent me via email. The rules they gave me during the viewing were strict but manageable, so I didn't think much of it at first. Thank Odin I checked, because the emailed rules were completely different and included gems like, if you wish to bring a guest, you must submit a written request at least a week in advance and get approval from all flat members. No guests allowed after 10 p.m. No overnight stays, and any guest requires a $20 fee for water usage. I thought, wait, I'm paying over $1,000 a month for a private room and can't even have friends over without jumping through ridiculous hoops? Noped out immediately. There were a few other insane rules, but that one sealed the deal. I got offered a freelance media job right out of college, with a couple of years of experience under my belt. The pay was £6.50 an hour for a full 37.5-hour work week. They expected me to use my own car for work purposes with no reimbursement for fuel or mileage. On top of that, the contract demanded full rights to any creative work I had done in the 2 years before starting the position, basically claiming stuff I'd already made. I declined immediately. 2 years before? What the fuck? That's delusional. I could understand companies wanting rights to whatever you create on company time, but I just cannot understand why companies think they can just own their creative employees. Fucking artists get shafted so much. I'm glad you read that contract and noped out. My husband, then fiance, was looking to buy a used car that's often used for street or rally racing. He doesn't race, but it's a fun car to drive. These cars often have aftermarket mods if previously owned by someone into racing or showing off. We had done our research and were prepared to walk away if anything felt off, even though it was the car we really wanted. The car was low mileage, and the dealer, a third-party outfit, kept insisting it was still under manufacturer's warranty and had no mods. I was skeptical, knowing any aftermarket parts could void the warranty. I read every piece of paperwork they wanted my husband to sign and explained it to him, but found nothing guaranteeing the warranty. I told him to walk unless they provided a signed document explicitly guaranteeing it. They did. Lo and behold, the car had an aftermarket downpipe installed improperly, affecting airflow and potentially causing permanent engine damage. Fixing it would have cost hundreds, but our signed paper gave us leverage. They avoided us for a week until we left a voicemail threatening a lawyer. We didn't pay a dime and got to keep the downpipe. Edit. The car is a Mazda Speed 3. I went to a well-known jewelry store to pick up an engagement ring. I wanted it to be a surprise, and I knew she'd eventually want to pick her own, so I made sure the ring was returnable for full price, about $900 just in case. After the proposal, my then fiance found a ring she liked better at another store, so I went to return the first one. The clerk said, "No problem, just sign this and we'll get you sorted." I read the small paper and saw it basically said, "This sale is final and cannot be refunded or returned for any reason." Pen in hand, I looked at her and said, "Why would I sign that?" She took it back, called her manager, and I got the full refund on my debit card.